Hi, welcome back. Had a little bit of a rest over the weekend. I'm feeling excited to be back on my COVID-19 Lieder A to Z, and we're on day 11 and we're up to the letter J. And today's piece is from the fantastic Hugo Wolf, and it is Der Jäger, which is a setting from his book of Mörike Lieder, so that's the poet Mörike. I'm going to speak though today mostly about Wolf and the way in which he engages in this poetry, because whilst we've touched on his style in the Ganymede comparison, we've not really looked at what Wolf is famous for so much. So Wolf to me is a composer who takes the most time to prepare, both for me as a singer because his melodies are very chromatic, they're quite demanding vocally, and in terms of the text usually he sets quite complicated poetry, so you'd need a lot of time to study both meaning and the kind of phonation of that language, and he also sets these ferocious piano parts, which means that both members of the duo need to be very, very comfortable with the parts before you can really start interpreting them. So Der Jäger means the hunt, and that's a very common song title in German music, probably because it's a nice balance between nature and masculinity, the two big themes of the art form. And in this poem, in this song, we have a huntsman who we feel has been either driven from or stormed out of his house after an argument with his lover. So the hunt is a little bit of a facade, a red herring. This song, I think if it were a novel of the 20th century, would be an Ernest Hemingway sort of vibe. It's very, very much his sort of, drowsy masculinity, very outdated now, but men do hunting and find animals and brave the elements. And it's not the sort of man I am, but I do enjoy encapsulating and embodying that persona to perform this. So as with, I'm going to jump right in, as with many German songs, Wolf gives us a sense of movement through his piano parts, and he kind of emulates this sort of quite strong marching through the elements style, and he does that in quite a normal way, by giving us a note in the bass, an chord in the right hand, and with a rhythmical figure. So we get that's quite simple, really. Harmonically, you'll probably notice already it's a bit less stable to what we're used to. We've been looking at a lot of classical and mid to late romantic stuff. So there's been a bit more refinement, but here we start getting quite ambitious with harmony. Wolf was really very daring and wanted to do something new. So that's already quite out there. But what Wolf does is that's too boring for him, and it's certainly not virtuosic. So he adds this bass motif, which I'm going to play with my right hand, just as a bit of a sign of how hard it is, and I probably will make some mistakes. I'm going to play it quite slowly, because I want to show you the contours of it. Instead of just having, he fills it in with this quite angular. So use both hands maybe there at the end, because this is what the left hand does. We were speaking the other day about jumps. Wolf is not afraid of them. So our overall effect is we get this. And that's about as much as I can play. It's also marked kräftig bewegt, which basically means strongly and very fast. So whenever I perform this as a pianist, we say basically as fast as the pianist can play it, comfortably and stably, that's how fast we go. So you're usually looking at something like 3 Tage Regen fort und fort, kein Sonnenschein zur Stunde, 3 Tage lang kein gutes Wort aus meinen liebsten Munde. So the words there, 3 days of rain, stronger and stronger. No sunshine has shown itself. 3 days long ago since a good word I received from my love's mouth. So he's been stormed out and in a hunt for a few days now. So we understand we get a lot of character from Wolf's piano part. We have movement, and it's a hard movement we hear from our harmonic shapes. It's very disjointed. We also have this tritone, the devil in music. I kind of hate it when people say that, but it is interesting if you've never heard it, because it did used to be an interval which was banned. By this point it's well been normalised, but because it's a symmetrical interval, there's only actually 2 intervals within it and they're equal. There's no resolution, so it gives you a dissonance to resolve, and he does that all the time. So that, for me, gives us a sense of struggle. So that's a lot of talking about the first bars, but it's important because Wolf sets up this motif of rhythmical, both of ba-ba, 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 but also ba-ba-da, 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 and bum, bum. So we've got all these different rhythmical levels working at the same time. And then the voice, this is a very thick piano texture. 3 Tage Regen fort und fort. There's a lot of words to get out, and we're in a middle voice, so it shows us quite a masculine and quite a forceful sort of sound, reminding ourselves it has that kräftig, strength, strongly at the beginning. So yeah, very moody, very trudgy, I think is a good word. So then our lover starts to complain about how she was harsh to him and he was to her, he supposes, and so they've, that's how they left it. So he has this amazing Sie trutzt mit mir, and I love that. Sie trutzt mit mir und ich mit ihr, so hat sie's haben wollen. Mir aber knockt am Herzen hier das Schmollen und das Grollen. It's really ugly. That was slowed down for your delectation. Das Grollen. And then he goes into something that's quite heroic. Willkommen denn des Jägers Lust. Welcome then the hunter's joy. Gewitter, Sturm und Regen. Winter storms and rain. Fest zugeknopft die heiße Brust. Jauchzend euch entgegen. So we get this really vicious. You hear how rhythmical and bashy that is, and the piano is just jumping. That's just the left hand. The right hand is doing something else crazy. It's so virtuosic, and it's almost just noise. It's very hard to get the melodic clarity out when you perform this. And yeah, it's quite amazing. Another thing to notice is that under Willkommen denn des Jägers Lust, Wolf gives us something that's a bit more graceful. Something like that. But you hear, he's still keeping that rhythm going. So even though he opens up the harmony into something more easy to listen to, complicated again. Yeah, he keeps that rhythm going, and he writes in brackets energetic when that becomes more melodic. So we're always driving forwards, we're still on the hunt. And the hunter goes through these different emotions. I encourage you to read the poem. I'll link the text. And he goes into this more kind of ponderous thing. And now I sit here and I think of her. And then, oh, but what would she be like? And he does this kind of almost impression of her. And we still have our rhythms. We can hear there's a melody there for sure. Now if you listen to the tension in that harmony, that diminished chords, then he brings back up. Coming back, you feel like we're being dragged somewhere. Then, no deer or foal is here at all. Keine Hirsch und Reh, nein überall. This amazing little piano part, everything just suddenly rhymes down. This is getting nowhere. Hear the piano again. Silence. Kein Hirsch und Rehlein überall. Very woeful. And then the song really starts taking off. You notice how we're moving through in the through composed style. All takes us somewhere else. The hunter decides to just send off a shot to kill the time. Just into the middle of nowhere. Totally without control. If you know anything about hunting, I know very little, but you don't waste your bullets, you don't waste your ammunition, you keep it safe. This guy is just firing off shots for fun because he doesn't want to go home yet. How does that Wolf set that? Eine Schuss zum Zeitvertreiber, gesunder Knall und wilder Haar. So there's this amazing build. We get the dum-da-dum-da-dum, like there's piles of horses and going off to hounds and foxes. But he's on his own, he's just imagining that, and then there's our big shot ringing out. Marked forte after a pause. So we actually get this moment of, I'll play it slowly because you hear the harmony is so tense. Pause on the bar line. Pause after it. And this is a moment where you can really lose all sense of tempo. The piano loses let the resonance. Imagine a big long double bass string. And then you have a good pianist who kind of sneakily brings in this sound from afar, a triple piano tremolo. G minor. Verhallt in Tenor durch die Runde. Ein plötzlich König überwollt. Singt das Herz zu So we get that fantastic, almost Wagnerian recitative-like section for different world harmony, and it's like we hear the storm coming from afar, and yet it echoes. There's something tense, and then it falls back in onto the hunter, and he speaks about how his heart is sinking. Nothing's made him feel better. And then Wolf gives us this. You notice instead of, we get this bigger leap. Feels more dissonant because of the big leap. And in comes our... Mit mir. That recapitulation of that idea. He's kind of gone, oh, I'm so sad, and everything is really rubbish, and it's almost that moment of going, oh, maybe I should just say sorry. And then he goes, why should I say sorry? Why should it be me? It's always me that apologises. No, she was wrong. Sie trotzt mit mir und ich mit ihr. Sie hat sich's haben wollen. Wir haben Frist am Herzen hier, das Schmollen und das Grollen. But then he makes his mind up. He just has had enough. Und auf und nach der liebsten Haus and off and back to her house. And he gives this amazing. There's this so incredible, the piano part. Just sounds incredible when you have a pianist play. It's a big flurry. Und sie gab es uns wieder. Then he says he'll go there, see her beautiful hair, give her a kiss, and everything will be fine. And it's such a funny song to end this song. After all of this Doom and Strang, this woe, this pain, these big masculine emotions, we get this. Drückt mir die nassen Locken aus und küss und hab mich wieder. And then you get this incredible, but it's just so like, und küss und hab mich wieder. So dainty. But I always really like that. It always gets a little chuckle from the audience. Then we have this outro, and it says, very fast und leidenschaftlich, which is kind of like, and I don't know, maybe like Leiden is sorrow, schaftlich, I'm not quite sure, kind of with sort of without sorrow, with sorrowless, I'm not sure. But sorry not to have looked that up. I forgot that was there actually. It's because it's not in my part. It shows the ignorance of a singer sometimes. But what I'm going to show you is how difficult this is. That means basically very fast. That's the important part. This is what it happens. Do you know what? Let's try a view of the hands. I'm going to try and put this. This is something new for us here, isn't it? So I'm going to have to hold this in my mouth, I think. Can we do that? Oh, okay. Here's the piano part. This is what the right hand's doing. Lots of articulation and detail there. So where's the iPad? There we go. You see, oh, that's not very long. That's the left hand is going. All of these sustained notes in one finger and then the other's normal. I mean, it's just crazy. There we go, I'm back. I'm not sure if that was beneficial. It's something a bit different. I'll probably have to hold my camera for the rest of the video. But yeah, It's an amazing song. It shows what Wolf is, which is this kind of completely brave man who kind of came out of nowhere, this whole new style of leader, really going into a poetry which is a bit more adventurous in some cases, but also just, you know, in his settings, taking these poems to more kind of wacky places, really getting inside the emotional colours of the songs. I love them. I encourage you to listen to as much as possible. There's a fantastic live recording of Fischer Dieskau singing Mörike Lieder. Not the whole set, but it's just a whole recital of them. And it's great. Yeah, I encourage you to check out the others. They're all so different. But that's a song like I don't know anything. And, you know, if we compare them to, say, Schubert's Auf der Brücke, these sorts of trudging songs for those, that which still sound celebratory, this he just manages to capture something completely other. Yeah, that's Hugo Wolf, Der Jäger, Day 11. Thanks so much. I'll see you back for tomorrow for HIJK. Talking about something exciting tomorrow that's new to me, actually, as well. Okay, lots of love. Bye.